10. Blue jay. Since 1970, 1 in 4 blue jays have disappeared from our eastern forests. Main reasons for these declines are likely development and habitat destruction and degradation, as they need oak-dominated older forests to breed and feed. Invasive plants may also play a role by reducing food sources such as insects, berries, and eggs and chicks of other species, while the frequency of foraging in or near backyards can make them vulnerable to poisoning. Surprisingly, little is known about this familiar jay, with likely about 20% of their population migrating in these short distances for poorly studied reasons. Due to our poor understanding of their migrations, life cycles, and behaviors, there may be other factors driving declines. To help this familiar bird, consider not using any chemicals on your lawn, offering them favorite treats like peanuts and sunflower seeds, particularly during cold winter nights, plant native plants, provide a water source, and volunteer at reforestation projects. 9. Rose-breasted grosbeak, 1 in 4, lost. Just like blue jays, rose-breasted grosbeaks have suffered similar declines for many of the same reasons. Habitat destruction and degradation, development, invasive plants, toxic chemicals and pollution, wind collisions, particularly during nocturnal migration, and predation by cats. Forest aging, poor management, and fire suppression likely play a bigger role, as the forest edges and open forest patches they like are slowly growing in. Forests grow in and start to die off without fire, resulting in extremely dense and poor, usually invasive plant dominated understories, poor sapling regrowth, reducing suitable nesting sites, and crowding and disappearance of common short lived fruiting trees and shrubs like mulberries and elderberries. Caging and deforestation and wintering range of the species may also have an unidentified effect on the rose-breasted grosbeak as well. To help in your yard, plant native fruiting trees and shrubs like red mulberry, American elderberry, blackberries, and juneberries, native seeding perennials, annuals, and grasses that provide insects and seeds like mallow species, foxtails, and milkweed, offering foods such as fruits and seeds during critical migration fueling times, provide a safe, clean water source, avoid or completely stop using pesticides and other chemicals, and spread the word about controlled fire as a better forest management tool. If you have a large property, consider creating an orchard, a rich semi-open forest with shrubby forest edges, planting a wide variety of native fruiting and seeding shrubs, forbs, and plants you don't already have, and contacting people to conduct a prescribed fire. 8. Baltimore Orioles, 2 and 5 gone since 1970. Baltimore Orioles have lost over a third of their population in the past few years, and are suffering for many of the same reasons as the rose-breasted grosbeak. Main threats are deforestation, habitat loss, and being a migratory species like the previous, conservation requires international cooperation over multiple countries. Other unique threats are the spraying of trees with insecticides, which both eradicates insect prey and may kill them directly, and collisions due to light pollution during nightly migration and at day because of reflections in windows. The almost complete elimination of the American elm also had a huge effect, wiping out a crucial nest tree, which Baltimore Orioles mainly use to build their sack-like nests. In response, since then, Baltimore Orioles have shifted to using alternative trees like cottonwoods and maples. To help in your yard, offer various treats like sweat, jelly, nectar, and oranges. Avoid spraying trees or anything on your property with pesticides, fungicides, insecticides, artificial fertilizers, and so on. Plant fruiting native trees and shrubs, along with insect providing others. Provide a safe above ground water source. Provide safe natural nest materials such as wool, dry grass, horsehair, and access to grapevines to strip for bark. And support wetland and riparian conservation efforts. If you have a large property, consider planting an orchard, a wide variety of native plants, and maintaining good quality riparian areas with essential nesting trees like cottonwoods and maples. 7. Winter boreal forest birds, evening grosbeak, golden crowned kinglet, and purple finch. Our boreal forest birds have seen some huge declines. By far, the evening grosbeak has been the hardest hit, listed as a tipping point orange award bird, with 9 and 10 gone since 1970. Followed by 62% gone golden crowned kinglet and 32% purple finch. The decline of the evening grosbeak has been the most severe by far of any North American land bird, and is now one of the 4 birds listed on the Road to Recovery pilot project, which is supposed to protect and study birds that require critical habitat in more than one country. Recent declines of this beautiful and once widely ranging bird are likely due to logging and other development in the boreal forest, disease outbreaks of avian illnesses, or reduced spruce, budworm, and other insect populations, likely partly due to aerial spraying by the US and Canada. To help plant a variety of important seeding and fruiting trees and shrubs, provide a good source of food like sunflower seeds during cold times, and maintain habitat on your property or support conservation efforts. The golden-crowned kinglet, a hardy, unbelievably tiny bird, is now listed as a common bird in a steep 61% decline. Declines are not very well understood, and breeding populations appear to have increased in the east due to new management practices, but logging, large forest fires, collisions with buildings, hunting by cats, and habitat degradation by invasive plants may still play a role. By far, I believe the biggest role is played in the form of less insect prey, possibly due to aerial spraying like for the evening grosbeak and other forms of pesticide, insecticide, and chemical poisoning. To help, as with other birds, try to eliminate chemical use, set up roosting boxes, and plant dense evergreen shrubs like red cedars, provide foods like sweat and peanut butter, plant native vines and shrubs, provide water, and join community science projects like eBird and Project Feederwatch to attempt to find and understand declines. Despite a 32% decline, for now purple finches don't appear to be in much trouble. Recent declines may have to do with the same problems as other boreal birds, aerial spraying, and development, but competition with the introduced house finch of the western US may also pose an issue. Best ways to help are to provide sunflower seeds and other like foods at feeders, reduce chemical use, plant fruiting trees and shrubs, and provide a water source. 6. Sparrows, Dark-eyed Ginkgo, white-throated sparrow, and field sparrow. The white-throated sparrow and dark-eyed ginkgo are two usual winter birds in most of the US that occur often together and have both experienced a similar 1 in 3 lost declines. Both are occasionally killed in window collisions during migration or at day, in particular the white-throated sparrow, and predation by cats remains a major problem for these frequently ground foraging birds. As with the boreal forest birds, aerial spraying and development pose problems, and succession and poor management may reduce suitable nesting habitats, which are densely vegetated flat areas at forest edges. To help, if you live in their breeding range, maintain densely vegetated untouched areas near forests. If not, just provide food, water, and leave dead leaves untouched under trees and shrubs. Plants to plant include low-growing shrubs and trees that store leaf litter beneath and provide shelter and possibly even small fruits, dense evergreen trees that provide winter roosting sites, and native forbs and grasses such as goldenrods, bluestems, and asters that have protein-rich seeds during critical times like snow events. The yellow alert declining field sparrow has lost roughly half of its population and is mainly in trouble due to the loss of breeding habitat. Field sparrows tend to not breed in human-dominated habitat, and human development has likely permanently decreased breeding area. It has been found that the best way to provide the species with breeding space is to maintain some woody vegetation in fields, undergoing succession, and thin shrubs and saplings in forested habitat to preserve openings. You can help in your yard by providing favorite seeds like millet at feeder, planting shrubs along a mini prairie-like habitat to provide migration habitat and shelter, and use grasses like broom sedge, bluestem to provide seeds and snow events. If you have a large property, consider maintaining breeding habitat, fields with small shrubs and trees for perches, and away from human habitation to help restore the population of this declining bird. 5. Woodpeckers, red-headed and flickerer. The red-headed woodpecker is a common bird in steep decline of 54% that was historically very abundant until the eradication of most of our nut-producing trees in older forests and the changing of management practices. The first blow was the logging of extensive northern beech forests, the second, the arrival of chestnut blight that almost completely eradicated another crucial nut species, and the third, the trimming of branches and dead trees in urban areas. Further threats include the degradation of forests as open forests grow in and become less common with fire suppression, and the lack of suitable dead snags for nesting. To help in your yard, provide sweat and sunflower seeds if they occur, and join community science projects. Unless you have a large property, it's hard to help this bird much directly. If you do, maintain open forests with prescribed fire, avoid unnecessarily cutting dead trees and snags and trimming branches, Consider installing artificial snags and nest boxes and plant large amounts of a wide diversity of nut-bearing trees. The northern flicker has also lost about half of its population, but not enough to cause serious conservation worry, and for unknown reasons. Declines likely are connected to poisoning in the winter range, as they often forage in lawns, forest succession as fruiting trees and shrubs at forest edges get outcompeted, and difficulty in finding suitable disease or dead trees, preferably quaking aspens, for nesting. To help, avoid spraying your lawn with any sort of chemical, avoid destroying anthills, plant fruiting plants like elderberries, wild cherry, and grape, provide sweat and seeds, and spread the word about the personal and environmental costs of excessive lawn care. If you have a larger property, plant trees prone to heart rot like quaking aspen, leave dead and diseased trees alone, set up nest boxes, and maintain forest edges with fruiting shrubs like sumac. 4. Blackbirds. Blackbirds, despite being the most common birds in North America, have seen notable declines and account for at least 10 million of the birds lost. Red-winged blackbirds have lost about 28% of their population since 1970, and though exact reasons are unknown, their preference for agricultural fields like soy and rice for breeding likely puts them at risk of poisoning and nest failure due to harvesting. Exposure to various toxic crop chemicals likely results in poorer breeding success and more harmful mutations. Habitat destruction also plays a role by forcing them into agricultural fields in the first place, as may window collisions and invasive plants, which reduce nesting success. Maintain breeding habitat as shallow mid-successional marsh with cattails. The common grackle, despite being such a common bird, has seen recent population crashes, losing more than half of its individuals since 1970, and now listed as a common bird in steep decline. Its reduction is likely mostly due to habitat destruction, as they decline most severely with urbanization, which fragments and destroys their favorite nesting habitats, open fields with scattered trees and shrubs. Invasive plants like multiflora rose, Chinese privet, and cowrie pear also likely pose issues as they degrade field habitats without management and eventually turn them into forests. After urbanization occurs, competition with similar blackbird species, more dominant species like red-winged and brown-headed cowbirds, claim better at nesting and foraging sites, and more frequently parasitize grackle nests. As a final blow that likely exacerbated their decline, grackles are very susceptible to the mosquito-borne West Nile virus, which led to huge outbreaks in their populations in the early 2000s. To help, if on a larger property, attempt to recreate and maintain favored grackle habitat while providing better red-winged blackbird and brown-headed cowbird habitat nearby if they are prevalent to discourage them from hurting grackle nesting success. Lastly, the rusty blackbird has seen even larger declines, 74% in total, and has the most mystifying and unexplainable steep decline of any North American bird. Lower breeding density and remote breeding habitat in the boreal forest makes determination of possible decline drivers on their breeding grounds difficult. Possible reasons for trends include draining of the wet woodland habitats, particularly in the southeast where 80% overwinter, and a reduction in beaver ponds due to the wide eradication of beavers for several hundred years, though this habitat has likely been restored by beaver reintroduction programs. By far, likely the biggest reason for rusty blackbird declines is toxic chemical poisoning, as birds in the northeast have been found with extremely high levels of mercury, as the bottomland forests they prefer likely collect and concentrate them. If you own a bottomland forest or live near one, avoid chemical use while asking and educating your neighbors to do so as well. To help blackbirds in your yard, provide seeds like sunflower and millet that they like, create a small pond and prairie, leave leaves be, and participate in the Rusty Blackbird Working Group for rusty blackbirds. And maintain at least a 4 foot in your backyard or just a front yard as shorter grass, do not spray it, to allow winter blackbird flocks to come through and poke for Japanese beetle and June beetle larvae in the ground. 3. Hummingbirds. Even the gems of the sky, hummingbirds have been affected by many of the same threats as other birds. The confusing pair, Allen's and Rufus, have mysteriously both lost more than 70% of their populations, with Allen's being harder hit. Allen's, a red award tipping point species, is likely mainly declining due to inability to adapt to urbanization and as its small preferred coastal breeding habitats continue to be under development pressure. But other factors like cats, difficulty of finding good nesting sites, and window collisions likely play a role as well. Roofers are a little more resilient to urbanization and have a larger breeding range, but are likely at risks for most the same reason: cats, lack of suitable nesting sites, and collisions with other threats during their long migration. To help, plant native plants that provide these hummingbirds nectar, insects, and nesting material on nesting sites, maintain responsibly managed hummingbird feeders, make your windows bird safe, keep cats indoors if you own one, and avoid using chemicals on your property. If you own a property with suitable habitat, manage it to prevent invasive species encroachment, and if it's Allen's hummingbird coastal habitat, make sure it's protected from development for generations to come. 2. The eastern towhee. A very common eastern backyard bird, the eastern towhee has seen a 60% decline. Listed as an orange tipping point species, main reasons for decline are likely habitat succession, as in the mid 20th century, farms that were abandoned created shrublands, but as subdivisions were built and shrublands became forest, the land became less suitable for them. Other factors for these birds' decline include poisoning, as runoff from lawns can make their ground-based food toxic, vulnerability to window collisions, and they're usually ground-based nests, which make them in danger of being destroyed by land-based animals, like cats. Deer overpopulation, as with some other birds that require shrubby understories, have reduced suitable foraging and breeding habitat by overgrazing, trampling nests, and encouraging invasive plants they don't eat to take over. To help in your yard, plant small native shrubs and trees, weave leaf litter under existing trees and shrubs, make windows bird safe, keep your cat inside, and provide foods like sunflower seeds and mow on the ground near your favorite cover during snowstorms. If you own a large property with forest, practice deer management either for fencing, hunting, or both. Plant woodland shrubs to provide nesting area, remove invasive plants, and if feral cats occur, catch and rehome them. 1. Nutwood thrush. Nutwood thrushes are really not backyard birds, but they were still worth mentioning. They're one of the most prominent examples of declining eastern woodland songbirds, with 6 in 10 gone since 1970, but forest restoration has increased and stabilized populations in recent years. Fragmented habitats on both wintering and breeding grounds are one of the main reasons for the wood thrush decline, as nests are likely made more vulnerable to land-based predators like raccoons, cats, and birds like cowbirds, reduce insect food quantity, and overall make forests poorer quality. The biggest thing you could do to help this bird is avoid spraying any sort of chemical, keep cats indoors, provide leaf litter under shrubs and trees in yard, bird-proof windows, and create safe ground-based bird baths. You can also support bird-proofing structures and restoring forests, or maintain a good quality forest if you own one. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share, and like.